You can't develop players on the national team. You got to develop players on a week-to-week basis. The way a player grows is playing in a competitive club, having internal competition week in and week out. If you call up young players from Mexico to the selección, there's still the same stagnant young players staying in Mexico. You got to send them to Europe. You got to let them go.
All we can do, get them on the phone. Say you gotta play.
And welcome back to the Hard to Handle Sports Podcast. My name's Ismael San Juan. Thank you so much for being back here. Wow, Mexico is currently getting destroyed 4-0. 4-0 against Uruguay. We'll touch on how terrible Mexico is. But on better note, Real Madrid win their 15th Champions League this past weekend over Dortmund. And they welcome Mbappe to Madrid. We'll touch on that. In the French Open, Djokovic is out. He hurt his knee. We'll talk about that. And Sinner versus Alcaraz is coming up. One of the best matches of the year, I assume, is going to be. So we'll touch on that as well. All of that on this episode of the Hard to Handle Sports Podcast. Let's get it. Man, Mexico is just terrible, bro. 4-0 right now against Uruguay. I'm about to take off. I'm about to catch a flight, but I gotta record this real quick. People wanted to change. People wanted to see younger players. People wanted to keep asking, how come we don't change the guard? How come we don't get rid of these players? To be honest, it's because we suck. There's no talent pool. There's no young players. There's no exciting players. Chucky Lozano just got announced to SDFC. He's going to the MLS. As a San Diego native, as someone that has family in San Diego, I'm happy. I'm a little happy. It's my fault too, but I'm happy that San Diego finally signed someone. But I'm also sad because Chucky Lozano, after his goal against Germany, everyone thought he was going to explode. He was going to go to big teams, do big stuff. And he ends up just being another Mexican player that couldn't really succeed too well in Europe. I mean, he was a champion in Italy. He was a champion in Netherlands. But he's 28 years old and he's coming back to the MLS. MLS, yeah, it's grown. Yeah, it's gotten better, but it's still not a respectable league among the world. And it's sad. It's sad. But you see what Mexico's doing right now. They don't have any talent pool. There's not players. There's no prospects. Our academies aren't producing anything. Our big teams aren't producing players. America, Chivas, maybe Pumas. Pachuca is the only one that really puts players out there. But even then, none of these prospects have elite potential. If you put it in FIFA terms, none of them have a rating of like 85 or higher. Like, to put it in the most layman terms, all of our players have a cap of being like C+ players. Maybe a high 70, low 80 if you want to put numbers into it. None of our players have star potential. None of our players have top 10 in their position in the world potential. It's just as clear as daylight. That's the simplest way you could put it. None of our players have the potential to be top 10 players in their position. And it's sad. The closest one, maybe Santi, maybe Edson Alvarez, but even then, like, it's tough to see. It's tough to see. And yeah, you could give younger players a chance. Yeah, you could get rid of these older players that keep losing. But at the end of the day, it's a lack of talent. Our academies aren't producing talent. We're not sending enough players to Europe. They're not competing against the best. They're staying in Mexico. There's a cap on how good you could be if you keep playing in Mexico. And if they don't do something at the youth level, it doesn't matter how many chances you give young players in the selección. The selección plays such a minimal impact on the development of young players. Like you play like what, 8-10 games a year. You have a couple camps. You play 3 games you play 2 games spread out around 4 camps. There's a summer tournament every 2 years. There's not too many games. You can't develop players on the national team. You got to develop players on a week-to-week basis. The way a player grows is playing in a competitive club, having internal competition week in and week out. If you call up young players from Mexico to the selección, there's still the same stagnant young players staying in Mexico. You got to send them to Europe. You got to let them go. You got to give them real minutes in the Liga MX. If you bring a 23-year-old to the selección that doesn't have minutes in Mexico, he's not going to just magically be a better player with the selección. Doesn't work like that. It's a week in, week out type of thing. We're seeing it right now. We're getting trashed by Uruguay, and it's embarrassing. We have no talent. It's not like, yeah, let's get rid of Ochoa. Let's get rid of all these players. But there's no talent. The U.S. found a loophole because of their military. They have dual citizens all over the world. That's the loophole that the military for the U.S. was able to afford them. Yeah, they got rid of players, Bradley, Altidore, all those other guys. They got rid of them, but they had these dual nationalities that they could go to. Mexico can't just get rid of the old players because there's no other young players coming through. They don't have a pool like the U.S. had to pick out of because of their military that just plants dual nationals all over the world. They can't do that. So Mexico has to change their academy to develop players, and they haven't done anything, and here we go. It's the same thing. You could give young players a chance in the selección. If they're not good players already, they're not going to magically become good players in the selección. And it is what it is. Mexico's in a very bad position. I'm still going to go see them in the Copa America, but man, it's rough. It's rough. And you can't just give these young players a chance with the selección and think they're going to be good players. You got to give them a chance week in, week out. You got to send them to Europe. Everyone says this, but no one does it. And so at this point, it is what it is. Mexico sucks. We're still going to go to the games and whatever. We're stuck in purgatory. On a brighter note, Madrid win their 15th Champions League this weekend against Dortmund. Not going to lie, Dortmund had us against the ropes. They had a right hand. They had a left hand. They had a hook. But Courtois was why I said that Courtois should start. Yeah, Lunin, you had a great season. Commendable what you did the whole season. Just coming in there, playing like a starter, playing like a top 10 goalie in the world. But man, Courtois, when he's even a hobbled Courtois, even an out of form Courtois is the top 5 keeper in the world. And he played like a top 3 keeper in the final. Big saves. He's huge. He's like 6'5", 6'6". The one-on-one in the first like 15 minutes, Courtois, when he comes out, he basically engulfs the whole goal. You got to go around him, push it too wide. Right there, I was already like, yup, that's why you start Courtois, because he's huge and he's agile. He can get low super quick. He plays like Memo Ochoa, but with the 6'5" body. That's how agile he is. He's an elite goalkeeper. That's why you play your stars. And then, we were able to get the dub, 2 goals. Shout out Carvajal, Real Madrid legend. Nacho almost got one. That would have been beautiful to send him off like that. Can't even say enough about Kroos retiring. What a legend. I'm going to miss him. He gave the number 8 to Valverde. That was emotional seeing the celebration. But what can I say? Vini scores in the final. Bellingham gets the assist. They're going to duke it out for the Ballon d'Oro depending on how they do over the summer in the Copa America and in the Euros. But overall, what a beautiful way to send off Kroos and welcome Mbappe. People are comparing it to the KD Warriors. It's not the same. The KD Warriors were unstoppable. They were favorites in every series. Going into the quarterfinals, Real Madrid was placed 3rd behind Arsenal and City in the favorites. Look it up. The betting odds had City, Arsenal, and then Madrid. And then there was like 2 teams right behind Madrid with almost the same betting odds. So, we were not favorites against City, and we were outplayed. I could say that as a Madrid fan. We were outplayed for big moments against Dortmund and even against Bayern. So we never really looked like world beaters. Out of all the Madrid teams that have won Champions League these last 10 years, they've won 6 in 10 years. This Madrid team would not be in the top 2. They got it done, which is credit to them. But there's been stronger Madrid teams than this. So I don't compare it to the 73 Warriors. But man, Mbappe has it cut out for him. He has to come in here with his head down and just be a part of the culture, embrace the winning mentality. And I think it's gonna work. Ancelotti, I trust Ancelotti. He's señor, un don. He's great. He's great with personalities, his calm demeanor. He's just magnificent. He's a great coach. I love Ancelotti. And if we didn't have Ancelotti, maybe it would worry me having all these talented players. But there's enough French players that are going to welcome Mbappe, show him the ropes. And Ancelotti's just a coaching god. So we'll be all right. Hala Madrid, 15th Champions League. Djokovic is out of Roland Garros. what a rough year for Djokovic. He still doesn't have a title. He hasn't even made a final, and now he's out of Roland Garros with an injury. Wimbledon is in doubt. Olympics a little bit in doubt too. Whew, man, people were kind of criticizing him that he might be faking the injury, but now we see that it's definitely real. Sad to see. The big three are pretty much done, man, especially with the year Djokovic is having, which I don't think people could have seen coming. Like, no one thought Djokovic was going to have such a dip this year, because he did win, three Grand Slams last year, 3 majors. For him to not even make a final, and we're already in June, it's pretty crazy. He was arguing with his wife. I don't think that's anything. It was just funny, but I don't think he's washed. Just like I don't think Nadal is washed either. Nadal, I think he's just suffering from injuries, and he's rusty, and he needs to be able to get games under his belt. I think it's almost similar for Djokovic. Like, at some point, you got to play a full schedule to get rhythm. And I think Djokovic just starts getting better, loses, takes a big break because he's basically just focusing on the Grand Slams, never really catches rhythm, and then it's the same process over and over again. He also picks up like a little bit of injuries here and there. Like, a lot of times he's like grueling out matches, but I don't think he's done. He's at 24 right now. I still think he gets to like 27, 28 in the next 3 years. I don't think this is a downfall of Djokovic. It is pretty crazy seeing a Grand Slam with no Djokovic or Nadal, especially Djokovic, because he's been like just super consistent these last 10 years. Nadal, he's been hurt a lot, and obviously Federer has been retired for years now, and even like at the end, he was not present too many times. So basically, just not seeing Djokovic in a semifinal, or he was in the quarterfinal, but not seeing it in a semifinal, it's crazy. So this is a big opportunity for the rest of the field. We got Ruud, we got Zverev looking for their first Grand Slam, for their first major. Ruud, who's gotten to 3 finals, I believe. Maybe this is the year. Zverev, he had that collapse in the U.S. Open against Dominic Thiem. And then Alcaraz and Sinner trying to get another one. So I think it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing to see someone get their first one, or these young guys really solidify. You know, either Sinner catches up to Alcaraz gets his third. It's going to be fun. I hope Djokovic gets well. I hope he's in the Olympics. I know he's trying to go for a gold. It would be nice. It would be great to see him in the Olympics. Get well soon, Djokovic. And man, oh man, this semifinal matchup against Alcaraz and Sinner is going to be insane, man. Like, Sinner, who just got the number 1 spot. Alcaraz, who was number 1 last year, for the first time, one of the youngest prospects. They're both 23, 21 years old now. It's going to be fireworks. Sinner has struggled in clay until not too long ago. Now he's really good on clay as well. Alcaraz, who people said that his game suits clay the best out of all the surfaces. And both of them came into Roland Garros with some type of like little nagging injury, which seems they've gotten over. But this is the start of this rivalry. This is the start of like Federer, Nadal. Like, we're gonna see this for years and years and years to go. Like, semifinals, finals. We're gonna see this a lot of times. So it's amazing to be able to catch it in the front. Sinner, now the number 1 player, first Italian to do that. Alcaraz, trying to get that number 2 spot from Djokovic. It's gonna be electric. 2 young guys going at it in Roland Garros on Friday. Like, that's must-watch TV. Must-watch TV. Find a way to watch it. Peacock, Tennis Channel, Tennis TV. I don't know what the UK one is, but this is must-watch TV. You got to find a way to watch this game, I'm telling you. Who do I have winning? Who do I think is going to win? I think with the momentum that Sinner has, I think I would give the edge to Sinner. He just got number 1. He won the Australian Open. I think Sinner, he makes it a real rivalry. I think in a lot of circles, people still have Alcaraz way ahead of Sinner, even with that number 1 spot, even after winning the Australian Open. Alcaraz was so young when he won the U.S. Open, when he won Wimbledon, and he has like crazier highlights than Sinner. So I think people still have Alcaraz like a notch or 2 above Sinner. But if Sinner beats him and gets Roland Garros as well, then we have a real rivalry, and I think Sinner catches up to Alcaraz in the public eye, in the public perception. So I think that's what's gonna happen. Sinner wins, and then I think he goes on to win it after that. But make sure to watch it. It's must-watch TV. That should do it for this episode of the Hard to Handle Sports Podcast. As always, if you made it to the end, I appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.
When I slide, no sudden moves. All my goons are stretching. And I'm taxing for the feet on my damn collection.